Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Texas intend to continue their undefeated streak in the Major 5 qualifiers so far tonight, and OpTic Karma has given his thoughts on whether he might become the coach for this team in the very near future. The rumour has it, and certainly it was heavily implied based on what Hex says in the clip we're about to see in the coming minutes, that he probably will become the coach in the future, but maybe not right now, just because they're doing so well and he doesn't want to disrupt anything. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. First of all, just a quick follow-up on the series we saw last night, FaZe versus Vegas. Great series and slasher, it's got to be said. I love these graphics now that Rose puts together for Crone here because, you know, we were lagging. Trust you never win the replay, this type of stuff. But yeah, slasher certainly turned up after that replay went through, and they absolutely deserved to win the series. And it's got to be said, even though the big talking point, right, was the game one situation, the replay, FaZe did play some great Call of Duty there. Yes, Vegas, their composure has probably gone a little bit, but that hardpoint was very impressive. I think their comms are much better. It seemed that way, at least from looking at it from the outside. Simp played very well. Slasher had a lot of the hill time. So it does maybe seem like they're clicking a bit more. FaZe. It's tricky, right? Because they look like they're clicking well when they play any team in the bottom four. And then they play a competitive team and it's a slightly different story. But still, we know they're great in scrims. They've always been great in scrims. And aBeZy said that after the fact in the interview. He was like, look, we're a good scrim team. It's about making that work in naturality. And look, obviously everyone likes to joke because when teams say we're good in scrims, they get fried in the matches. It's you know, obviously people are like, well, practice doesn't matter at the end of the day. But it was a thing with OpTic before, right? When they were first putting their team together and they had a rough time going into their home major, they were doing very well in practice, and it was about making that work in reality. So probably that's going to happen sooner or later for FaZe. Maybe that was an indication last night. Clay says he regained a bit. Sucks is what it is. Couple of bad plays that look horrendous on screen, but when you hear the comms, they might have made sense. Still got a chance to put it together for these last few weeks. So last night's game, in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't matter that much for Vegas. If they beat Rokkr come Sunday, tomorrow, then they still put themselves in a pretty decent position. Far from a guarantee, but Rokkr's last few series are tough. They play Thieves and I think it's Toronto from now to the end of the qualifiers, in addition to the Vegas game. So that really is the big one, right, for them to win. And if they lose that, it's probably over. If they win that, they put themselves in a position to have a decent chance. And also, yeah, I mean, if they do lose that, it's welcome to the Shanghai Legion, I think, as everyone's been going around with lately. That also confirmed yesterday with that Vegas defeat that subliners cannot be caught anymore by any team in the bottom four, and therefore that's GG for subliners. They are going to the World Championship. I don't believe the other teams, the Surges, the Bostons, and of course the final spot in Minnesota, Rokkr, with 3 spots left up for grabs. OpTic, FaZe, Thieves, Toronto, subliners now confirmed to champs. Of course, a lot of those teams have won events outside of OpTic, and maybe they can do so coming up soon. 3 more spots to clinch, and I don't believe that any of that is going to be confirmed until a major, when, you know, with 65 points on the line for a victory, anything can technically still happen within those seedings, but at Vegas really are going for the 8th seed as it presently stands. Just wanted to look quickly then at some cards actually so far this season. This is Cellium's one so far. Thought it was pretty nice, to be fair. It's quite funny how we always talk about Cellium having a 1.2 win or loss, and across all the game modes, he has almost exactly a 1.2 on every single game mode. 1.20, 1.19, 1.19. Like, you don't see that type of stuff every day. These are Drazah's numbers, which you know, pretty good across the board. These are like the numbers you see from Thieves generally for like their entire team over the course of the season, when they're just marginally in the positive, and then have the teamwork and the other aspects as well. I think he had a bit of a rough search and destroy stage, then massively turned it around. And these are Dashy's numbers, slightly more all over the place than Cellium's are, but I thought very impressive from Dashy given the fact that he didn't have a good start to the season. Dashy was very underwhelming for the first stage or so, and quickly turned that around. 1.12 in hardpoint, great search and destroy, and control hasn't really still been there that much for Dashy, which is interesting because last year, of course, in Vanguard, he was the best control player in the game. Tuscan control defense, he probably averaged like a 1.8 for the first few months of that game, and they won every single one they played. Hasn't quite been the same control player this year. We know that's where OpTic are thinking to work on, and we'll see if that works out for them tonight when they play up against the Seattle Surge. Also wanted to mention this poll because the other day we saw this Twitter survey that we did on Breaking Point, and it did not have anywhere near as many votes as this YouTube poll did from Zoomer's live channel, where well, he asks, or well, okay, if Val's asked who actually did the polls, who's your favorite CDL team in Modern Warfare 2. And obviously there's only 4 options here, right? And the tricky part about this is that you have to choose one rather than multiple, right? So I think there's probably some people that would support Vegas and other teams, but their primary team they support is OpTic. I thought these numbers, I mean, think about this, right? 30,000 votes, 82% of the fan base is OpTic fans. Now, as I say, there might be some caveats to this. This is probably higher than the numbers you usually see when these polls come around. I don't know what you guys think about this. I mean, it's kind of remarkable to think about, right? And it makes sense when you look at the numbers. Like, I even find it quite interesting to look at Zuma's live, because he puts up, or Valve puts up the VODs from Zuma's reaction to the games on there, and you'll see the OpTic games when they win will have like, 60, 70k, and I saw one, it was like Florida versus Los Angeles, Guerrillas had like 2,000 or something, so obviously it makes sense, but it's just funny to see the parallels between the two circumstances. And despite the fact that OpTic, FaZe and Thieves are the biggest 3 teams, the discrepancy is remarkably big. And I do think there's quite a lot of OpTic fans that also do like other players and support other teams, but if they had to just choose one, it would be OpTic, and therefore that's why you see remarkable numbers like this. I don't know if there's any other esports really, or even sport in general, where these type of numbers are commonplace. As I say, you look at it from different YouTube audiences to Twitter audience to Reddit audience or whatever. I think the numbers will vary somewhat, but fundamentally, right, you get something like this pretty much wherever you look. Now, speaking of OpTic, we know that Karma has made the point many times that he wants to become the coach of OpTic, right? Because with Rambo having the disagreement with Dashy, him stepping away, JP doesn't, I think, fully consider him to be the coach of the team. He's more like, he helps where they need him to help, gives them help with the analytics, and, does what he can from like an interpersonal perspective as well. But, JP, it's difficult to do all the roles, right? We talked about that with even Sender in the past, right? And it's just difficult to make everything work. There's so many things you've got to think about as a coach from, the mental perspective inside and outside of the game. How much do you tell the guys how to play certain situations? How much are you helping them figure that out for themselves? So it's a tricky balance to strike. And I've mentioned it before, right? The Karma, given his tenure in Call of Duty, given the fact that everyone respects Karma's opinion, Dashy made the point the other day, he would like to have Karma as a coach if he wants to come and coach the team. Everyone would respect his opinion, and I think that a guy of that experience and caliber could be valuable to them, if not just in day-to-day actions, but even in just like, we're going into Championship Sunday, Karma's going to give some words to the team on how they should try and prepare. So I'll share these thoughts here from the latest Eavesdrop podcast, which is actually cool. I guess I can try and make it shown on screen here. Okay, it's pretty tiny out to zoom out. The new coach of OpTic Texas, right? So, Hicksy straight up comes out with that as the title, and this is what they had to say.
Talk about the possibility of you coaching. I think that this is a good opportunity for us to have like a live conversation on that, because I would want them to see what the conversation for something like that would be. Yeah. As you know, I would be a massive fan of that happening. But I don't. Are you like what are your thoughts on that? Like, are you serious about it? Would you do it?
Well, I mean, I haven't had a drink yet, have I?
No,
have you? I haven't drank.
I mean,
no.
why are you asking me?
I mean, it's like, I'm just 12. Making sure, to clarify. But like, no, like I mean, we talked and like, well, this was actually the first time we talked before we did this about any of this, and like, I've definitely thought about it like a lot. And I mean, Brandon has been pretty open to me about it. Even when I've streamed, I've had people come in and say things that other people said, and like I've seriously been considering it. And I mean, can I just say like what I was saying when we were talking before? Like there's like 2 things I'm thinking right now. One was they're doing great. There's like what, a month and a half left, maybe a month. Will I come in that time span and change anything? I mean, obviously, and like you said, well, there's that like, well, what if you do come in and then they win or they win champs? Like then, I mean, it's just like everyone. So that's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd be happy too. Even if deep down I knew that like in a month, like what could I actually do? I don't know. I mean, I could do something or maybe literally nothing.
So the conversation that we're having is that you haven't made the full decision because you don't know whether or not you want to let the next 2 tournaments finish out the season, and then wait to make the decision after that because so far so good. Well, look, I don't think we've made a decision here. I think that if we do make a decision, it'll be behind closed doors, and whether it's this season or next season, obviously, like that's going to be up to you and the players, and we can explore that whenever. But I do appreciate you hanging in there. I like that. I like that you have interest in that. I would want nothing more than for people who did as much for the game the way that you did to continue to benefit from where the game has gone and some of the some of the opportunities that come with it.
So Karma is clearly keen to become the coach of the team and make that work, because I'm sure part of him thinks, you know what, still love Call of Duty, playing Rust or Tarkov or whatever he plays when Scump goes on to play with him all day and doesn't really have much else going on. So I'm sure he wants to be involved a little bit more with the Call of Duty team and get involved on that side of things, which does make sense. Now, the debate that Karma's having is like, the team's going well. It's obviously working well with JP as it stands and whatever situation they've got going on over there. He doesn't want to come in and disrupt that, right? And you can understand why. Obviously, as Karma says, if he was to step into the team and they're to win Major 5, win champs, it'd be a great story. And it's always really tough to say how valuable coaches are. Karma even gave some thoughts on that later on in the episode. It's a good listen. And he was just talking about how, well, what do coaches really do? He doesn't, his opinion is they haven't really done that much ever, but he still feels like he could be valuable. And I certainly think he could. He's Dama Kamabalo, after all, the first 3-time, or just the 3-time, whatever, DB3. But it was certainly indicated towards the end there from Hex that, okay, no decision has been made yet, but it may well be down the line. Hex seems keen as well to have Karma involved if they can work out the minutiae of the details, and it's very possible this will be a next season thing rather than a this season thing, just to see how it goes. If they fall short at Major 4 and they're like, look, Karma, we really feel like you could be valuable to us come the World Championship, then maybe he steps in on like a one-event basis. But if that doesn't happen, if they continue to do well, you can understand Karma not wanting to disrupt their current, their current work way that's working. If Karma was to come in, be there, more present in scrims and everything every day, it might disrupt the way they're currently operating, which isn't necessarily ideal. Even if it's for the better in the longer term, any disruption to their current practice regime and the way that they do things might not be optimal. So I can understand Karma's point of view, but I think it's quite clear that Karma wants to, the team wants him, and Hex even seems keen to make it work as well for probably next season at this point, which might make sense for all parties. So definitely enjoy your thoughts in the comment section below. Definitely an interesting story to keep your eyes on. And of course, they've got a big weekend this week. They play Surge tonight, and then Toronto comes Sunday. So if they want to go 5-0, because ideally for OpTic, if they could go 5-0, if they can try and go undefeated again in these qualifiers, they will put themselves in a great position to make it as the #1 seed. I think they're about 15 points behind FaZe right now, maybe 25 points behind after last night's victory from FaZe. But if they win all their qualifiers, OpTic, and they do well at the major, second, first win it or something, they should be able to overtake FaZe for the #1 seed, which down the line at champs could be pretty important, right? And also means you get theoretically the easiest first round game. Would you rather play Boston or Rokkr round 1 or Vegas round 1? That is a debate, of course, but these are the games for today, and it's pretty funny, right? So we've got 3 bounty matches. Again, the first, the second, and the fourth game are bounty games. So it's funny that the best game of the day, the best series of the day, is not a bounty match, but I believe it's the OpTic Toronto series that they're bounty game, so whatever. But FaZe are going to get a free 10k. They play London first up, then it's Thieves versus Mutineers. So, most of these series are pretty terrible, let's be honest here, right? FaZe Legion, or FaZe London, sorry, and then Thieves, Mutineers. The good series is Surge OpTic, which is always fun when you get to see Pred and co play against the OpTic guys. We've seen it a few times. It's been very entertaining, most of the opportunities, and Surge can always put up a fight, but they looked pretty lost against Toronto the other day. I'll take OpTic in a 3-1 here. I feel like Surge will take a map somewhere, maybe map 1, maybe map 3, but I feel like outside of that, OpTic should be good to get this job done. And then it's Subliners Guerrillas to close out the day. I saw a crazy stat yesterday actually where Arcitys' longest loss streak ever was on, I think, United in World War II with 4 series losses in a row. Outside of that, he'd always won. His loss streak never got to that high. Guerrillas, his loss streak was up to 10 before they finally won last night. So either that's going to go back to reality for them, or they're going to somehow get an upset victory. But yes, clearly the OpTic Surge game, which is going to be the most exciting one, in my opinion at least. But very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.